Welcome to the What's Up Verdict podcast. We fashion ourselves television judge and jury. My name's JJ Crowder. I'm here with my co-host Mattson Heiner.
Better red than dead.
Alec Burgess.
Let's get it.
I'm impressed at how good that actually turned out. I'm not doing it because it'll sound like crap, and I'm not ruining it. We appreciate you tuning in. Thanks for joining us. We are here live. We're talking about the Rings of Power and now the House of the Dragon. So hang out with us. Let's chit-chat about it. But before you do that, go ahead and hit the like, subscribe, bell notification button. Follow us. Whatever it is that keeps you coming back for more, hit that button. We appreciate it. Tell your friends about us. Helps grow the podcast. Yeah, we appreciate that. So let's talk House of the Dragon. We had the big time jump, 10 years. We had the actor changes. It almost felt like a whole new pilot.
I'm not really a fan about a lot of the actor changes, to be honest. I miss the younger ones.
Yeah, I really maybe it's this is hard for me because I like this show and I was just getting into forgiving all the mistakes of the last two seasons of Game of Thrones. And just as I was getting comfortable with this show and enjoying it a lot, we get this weird change up. And I realize why we get it. And I'm not saying that they're not good. It's just that it's jarring to me. I really liked the young Rhaenyra. I didn't really care much about – I didn't care either way about Alicent, but I really liked the younger Rhaenyra, and I don't know how I feel about the older one.
That's exactly kind of what I was into. And then we had Kristen Cole didn't change, same actor.
Yeah, and he didn't even look older. He just got a haircut.
Yeah, so I was sitting there going, I was like, why?
He got more dickish, though.
That's fair.
Yeah, but you had, Rhaenyra and Alicent, who two completely different people, changed so much, and then Kristen Cole didn't.
They could have combed in some more gray. I think that would have been appropriate.
Yeah, I think they could have done a number of things, because even Harwin Strong, like Breakbones, he's different. The same actor, but they thinned his hair out and put some gray in his beard. Very different from the guy that beat the hell out of everybody at the wedding, right? It was just why is he? But yeah, that's a great point. Why is Kristen Cole not changed?
But we should say King Viserys, the dude looked like he aged 100 years, and they hit that one on the head. I was like, man, they know how to make someone look like two drinks away from death or something.
Yeah, he looks rough. So the rumor is that what he has is leprosy. So that's kind of what, why he's constantly got the sores, things like that. They haven't, obviously in the show, they haven't confirmed that, but I was reading that's what they've the showrunners have said. It's a form of leprosy. So we'll see how that goes.
I would have given him grayscale. Same thing.
Right? The problem is that they give him grayscale, he can't be around anyone. They'll isolate him because they don't have a...
Same thing with leprosy.
Fair. That's fair. Touche.
Hey, leprosy in their universe is different than the Bible.
Yeah, it's grayscale.
There you go. It's grayscale. I love it. And maybe it is grayscale, and they've just been so busy peeling all the skin and infection away that it never actually manifested as
solidified.
Yeah, as grayscale itself, because we learned from Mormont that you can just peel that shit off and you're good.
But you were talking about JJ. I was trying to think when we were getting ready for this podcast of a TV show or a movie to an extent. It's a little easier to think about, but a TV show where you had a character that was pretty well liked, being Rhaenyra, and then all of a sudden just gone because the age change, and it's hard to come back from that because I don't really like the new Rhaenyra as well, but it's not really that actor's fault or anything. It's just her mannerisms, her level of delivery and things. It's not the added. What I think was hardest to me is young Rhaenyra's kind of arrogance and attitude and confidence and kind of mischievousness did not translate to the older Rhaenyra, in my opinion. She was much more just kind of straightforward, a little bit more black and white in her emotions, in my opinion, and left me wanting more. And it's going to be hard to kind of. I'm sure I will forget it, especially if this is Rainier we have for multiple seasons. But yeah, just hard, and I don't think they set themselves up for success there. But was there really another way? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I get it because I don't know that you could have drug out this season because I think ideally,
yeah, I guess you
would have
had
had a full
that, like,
season
sure,
of the younger actresses and actors, but I don't know that there's enough story to do it without it feeling forced. Because the one thing that I will give these showrunners with this content is so far they've really stuck to the source material and what's written in Fire and Blood. And I like that they're filling in some gaps, and kind of one of the things that they're doing is it seems like where the book itself comes from like a third party or three different third party perspectives, with the perspective of they're all three of them are coming from a perspective of the typical vision or point of view of the kingdom at the time, right? So very heavy male perspective, focused on the males. That's why they talk a lot about King Viserys and his reign. They talk a lot about the sons of Rhaenyra and Alicent. And then they mention Alicent and Rhaenyra because Rhaenyra is the heir apparent, and you have Alicent who's has given the king two sons. So it's one of those things where, but we're seeing in this show it's more about the women. So it's a different perspective than the book. So they're filling in some of the gaps as well, but they're really sticking to the source material quite well, which I like. So I don't know that they could have done a full season with the younger without kind of filling in gaps that they would have been making things completely up. So I'm okay with it. But to your point, Mattson, usually in a movie you get like 15, 20 minutes of we've got 6 hours or 5 hours of these younger actors and their perspectives and how they are. And you're right. I think my problem with Rhaenyra is she doesn't translate as well. Alicent, it felt like a smoother transition for me because the actress she continued on with that, being pissed at Rhaenyra and her situation of being this old king's wife that's constantly wondering how the future is going to go because her son's not the heir, and so she's constantly having to worry about what her dad told her and the queen, the princess coming after her kids, and she seemed like she was in the same place. But Rhaenyra seemed, even up until the point, like I was okay with the change at the end where it's like, screw this, I'm not doing this anymore. Let's get the hell out of here. We're going to go do our own thing. But it just felt like she wasn't, because Rhaenyra always struck me as kind of smart, just very young. Rhaenyra was smart, but she made some rash decisions that got her in trouble. This one seems like her whole life is a giant rash decision followed up with stupid decisions.
Yeah, she's just flaunting her, like, maybe Cloak and Dagger a little bit more than like I thought they would have at least tried to have a kid together, and attempt that. Even though, yeah, he clearly is not interested in her and him, but do what they said at the beginning for the sake of the realm and their people. And but it doesn't, I mean, maybe she did, but it doesn't seem like she really cared. And it's like, wow, you're like really just flaunting it to the kingdom and those that know, like, hey, I don't care, this is who I'm banging and I'm cool with it.
Yeah. But that aside, still an interesting show. And I'm really enjoying Larys Strong, the clubfoot. That guy's
little weasel.
Yeah, but Littlefinger did some dumb shit. Stop it. Now I want to go watch that movie. Littlefinger did some gnarly shit, but this guy burned his own brother and dad down, like, just to win favor with the queen. Like, damn.
Well, not win favor, blackmailer.
Well, that too. Yeah, like, yeah, you're kind of stuck at this point.
Yeah,
he clearly didn't really like his brother and dad if he's willing to do that. Like, jeez.
Yeah,
he's the most Game of Thrones part of the show, because I was actually thinking, earlier in the episode, I was like, where's all the cloak and dagger or, the knife in the dark type of stuff? And it showed up later. But at the beginning, I was like, you could solve this succession problem really easy. Yeah. Hire a gray man.
Yeah.
Job done.
Yep.
But they're just perfectly content as it is to argue back and forth and, jostle for position instead of just, knife in the dark. And guess what? We got a new queen or new king.
Yeah. Well, and what is it with these knuckleheads that can't control themselves? Like, seriously, Breakbones has to know at this point that he's in a tenuous position. Like, the queen has 3 children that do not look anything like her husband. Like, nothing like her. Like, and the fact that the king is just blindly pretending he doesn't see the difference. Like, even to the point of, he's kind of a smart old weirdo because in the very first thing, he's like, oh, I think he's even got his dad's nose. Like, because you can't, what are you going to do? Argue with the king? Hell no. The dude he just told you, you're not going to say that this isn't my daughter's and my son-in-law's kid. So bite me. And because he doesn't want to deal with that, right? So, but there's no way that anybody has any question about that. So why, as being Breakbones now, and this whole thing where he loses his mind and beats the hell out of Kristen Cole, that isn't in the book. Like, they gave that perspective there, right? So it's like they added that as flavor, because all you get in the book is that Harwin and his dad got burnt up at Harrenhal and nobody actually knew. There were rumors and there were this, that, and the other. So it is what it is. But yeah, it was just like, wowza. So now this one's interesting too. So sorry if I screw up your name. Shantez Adkins brings up a great point here. Nobody cared but the queen. It's not wrong. Everybody gave some side-eye looks, right? But the only one that cared is Alicent. So it's a great point because she's all pissed for a number of reasons. But
well, because her moral compass has now been compromised to an extent. So she's got dirt or blood or whatever you want to say on herself, and you just wonder where that's going to take her, because you look at like Cassian, who clearly has become just a pompous ass dick and has leaned into it now that he's been kind of absolved. And does the queen kind of lean more into that, or does she try to correct her wrongs but overcorrect in the wrong way? But I think that's where Game of Thrones is at its best, is those back alley decisions.
Yeah, and all the intrigue that nobody finds out about until it's too late, and you're like, damn it.
Well, when she was talking to what's his bucket, Clubfoot, talked about how bringing her dad back, it's not going to be non-partial decisions, but they're going to be partial to her now. Like, that's all she's after. She wants decisions to be in her favor, rather than them being, non-partial or just kind of the right decision. She wants them to favor her now.
Sure. Well, and I don't envy her, right? Because the king's always going to protect his heir, and it's his only kid from his original marriage, which I loved the part in the show where all this shit's going sideways and you see him in his room crying over over Emma's ring. You're like, oh God, it's just, I don't like Alicent, but you have to kind of feel for her in a way, because she's in just this terrible place. Like, her dad shoved her into this marriage for power, and now she's stuck in this position where, like, she told her kid, like she told Aemon, or Aegon, you are the problem, right? Like, you're gonna be targeted, period, because you're the threat, period. Which, that whole scene was a little weird. Like, I get
that
what
was
they're trying to show.
Weird.
Like, Aegon, like, I felt like they were trying to have like a the boys moment, like, but it was just like, look, there were other ways you could show Aegon as a weird dick.
I was worried that they're gonna have
a
old Game of Thrones moment where, like, him and the mom, she's like, oh, and he's like, oh, and I was just thankful that they went no.
Yeah,
that was weird.
Don't put it past Game of Thrones. Just saying.
I did laugh though, because I think that's the same window that one of the Baratheon kids Tommen Baratheon jumped out of in Game of Thrones. But Shantez has got another great comment here, right? right? She's only stuck because of her father, and so now she's angry. Absolutely, she's angry, which is terrible too because now her dad's coming back. So who knows what other shitty positions he's gonna put him in. So,
right?
Yeah,
like, you have to feel for her, but at the same time, it's like, gray man, invest. All your problems will go away.
Either that or like you had a choice. So in my brain, I'm like, make friends with her. Like all you had to do was be like, look, I didn't get to sleep around, but that doesn't mean that you can't, right? If you want to go bang your uncle, have fun. You want to bang your guard, have fun there too. Don't be jealous, because then this whole problem goes away if you're like best friends, right? Again,
I dare you to tell a woman to not be jealous, JJ. See what happens.
Sure. I mean, look, I say that, and in the same position, I'd be pissed. But just saying, it's an option, right?
I want to talk about Damon and Lena and that whole. It seems like he was. So why? Help me understand why he like in a different kingdom and he was a guest and they're trying to use him for the dragons and he's fine and happy with that because he want to deal with this past. Help me understand that a little bit more.
Sure. I'm going to drop some book knowledge on you here that'll help explain that. But first, Shantez confirms that it was the window that Tommen jumped out. I love it. That's a good point. She came up. Look, I love when the listeners and watchers jump in because Shantez got another one. Now the friendship was lost once she married her father. That's a fair point.
That would do it. Yeah.
I tend to forget that your best friend married your dad. That's your stepmom. That shit gets weird. Fair enough. Touche. You win. Okay, so Damon and Lena. In the book, Damon and Lena get married. They go have some kids. They go fly around on their dragons, and they travel the world on their dragons. She has Vagar. He's got whatever his Kavax, or I can't remember. Cavaxia. Anyway, it's something with a Vax in it. So they fly around and they go to all these places. Lys, they go to Tyrosh, they go to all these different places. And really, they did change their story in this. So Lena dies, but not until later. She actually has 3 kids, and then they go and they are at Dragonstone for years with Rhaenyra and Laenor. So they're hanging out. They become really good friends with Rhaenyra's family. So it's like this. And they're part of like the black group, right? So the blacks and the greens, they're on Dragonstone with them. Everybody's having a good time for years. Everybody's growing up together. And then there's Alicent and her and the king that are in King's Landing. There's a separation there. Now, Lena does die, but not in childbirth. She gets sick. I don't remember what happens, but she doesn't actually make it to Vagar. She tries to get to Vagar to take a last ride, but doesn't make it. So they kind of twisted that and changed that story. I get why they need to truncate the timeline, move it forward so we continue with the story. And I like the way that Lena was like, screw this. I'm not going out this way. I'm going out like a dragon rider. And the other thing that I like about it is it parallels what Damon was going through with his brother Viserys at the same time, because it's almost the exact same situation where Viserys made a joke, or Damon made a joke about it and was a dick. And now he's in this situation with a woman that he actually loves and kids, and he has to have that same choice and conversation with this maester. And then his wife, Lena, takes things in her own hands. Says, I'm not doing this shit. So I really liked that parallel and how they tied that story together. I thought that was cool. That was a good change for me from the book. But that's where Damon just didn't want to deal with it. He didn't want to deal with the politics. That's why they're out traveling, having a good time, because he can be his own thing. And again, she does convince him we're going to go back to Dragonstone, but that's why they stayed on Dragonstone, was to stay away from King's Landing. Rhaenyra didn't have the drama in Dragonstone. They just kind of did their thing out there because it's so far removed from the rest of the kingdom for the most part. Chantez loved it. Me too. I thought that was the best part of this episode, to be honest.
I thought it was a pretty empowering decision and really impactful, and just showed her character and kind of her moxie in that regard. And I mean, I wouldn't want to die that way, but shoot, like
yeah,
it's got to be quicker than going during childbirth.
exactly.
I will never know because I can't give birth. But to those out there that have,
kudos.
Real deal.
That and Dragon's Fire is pretty gnarly shit, so it's not gonna. You're gonna get toast pretty quick. The other thing I want to talk about is these kids, bunch of little dicks.
You get when you have Targaryens.
Well, as they say, shocker. I mean, I think we all, yeah, I think we all knew they weren't going to be the nice. But it's kind of interesting because it shows that there is some closeness there amongst the cousins, regardless, right? So even Aegon, who was kind of a jerk, as they're out on the yard before everything went sideways, like he was patting the littlest of Rhaenyra's kids on the back, right? Like, hey, go get him or whatnot, even though they were bumping into each other. So, it seemed to me like it was normal, healthy cousin feuds, right? Like I used to mess with my cousin. I tackled him one time and broke his collarbone. Like shit. So I thought it was really interesting to see that. And then they were messing with the Aemon Targaryen with the freaking pig. I thought that shit was hilarious.
That was like, so mean.
I was like, that's messed up, but that's kid shit, right? Like that's what they do. So I thought it was interesting. Things aren't going to stay kind with those kids for long, but
can't imagine why.
Yeah. Well, no, they're gonna take on, as you saw at the end when they do like the producers and stuff talk, like, and you think about it in your own life where you take on the beef that your parents have, like whenever siblings and parents and things have a dislike to someone else or a preference, like, and the kids hear those opinions and around it long enough, usually you take on what direction your family's going to go for, and it's really hard to break that mold and kind of rise above, and I don't think that's going to be happening here anytime soon.
No, it gets ugly.
We all want to give each other hugs. It's a really easy thing to do, but it's a lot more fun to be a dick.
That's fair. Yeah, it's a good point. So Shantez brings up, they're only that way because of their parents. Absolutely. It's like the Hatfields and the McCoys back in the day, right? Like by the time that feud ended, nobody knew why it actually started to begin with. Yep. So it's one of those interesting things where we take on, like you said, our parents.
Well, it's a nature versus nurture thing. It's not like those kids were born to hate each other. They had to be bred into that with interaction after interaction and competition and jealousy and those things. And that's where the real world comes in. And it's not always a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's silly, the things that we learn from our
things
parents.
You can learn from the House of the Dragon, taking it to the real world. So when you're a keyboard warrior out there, or something happens at work, or you got to call customer service, take a breath and remember that life shit happens, and just be nice.
Yeah,
I heard you say start a feud with people. That's all I heard. I heard when something goes bad, start a feud.
I can see that where you got that out of that, Alec. Like that seems like I can get that. I'm looking forward, really looking forward to further episodes. I really, really want to like the adult characters. Like I said, I have no problem with Alicent because she seemed like the same character. I think I'm going to have to get used to the Rhaenyra. And again, it's not that the actress wasn't good. She was great. It was my prejudice towards the fact that I liked the young Rhaenyra so damn much that I'm having that hard time with that transition. So I'm hoping that next episode we've gotten past that, almost feels like a whole new pilot. I'm very interested to see what happens with the kids, how they're going to play that story out, because we're on the cusp where we're at to some really interesting things getting started. I'm also very interested to see what they're going to do, how they're going to handle the Laenor Daemon situation, because that shit gets weird real quick too. Especially now that Laena's out of the way, because Laena was the only thing that kept that shit from getting weird for a long time in the book. So, because Daemon really did love Laena, so she was their kindred spirits. But anyway, I'm really interested. I've enjoyed it so far. Like I said, if I can get past the weird transition from the younger to the older, I think I'll be fine. But I'm more and more on board, even though I had some issues with the original Game of Thrones last 2 seasons for sure. Cool. Wow, man, House of the Dragon.
I'm impressed.
Yeah,
it
was fun.
It.
Shantez, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
We love it when you leave the comments. This is our favorite thing. This is why we do the lives. It's a lot of fun. We enjoy it. The interaction's a lot of fun. Being able to see your guys' thoughts, and so we appreciate you sharing, taking the time to put those comments and join us. Thanks for the love on Facebook too. We appreciate, love getting hearts next to our posts. So thank you so much. Thank you for that too. She said she's gonna follow and share. Definitely, feel free to go back YouTube. We got all sorts of this stuff. You can check out old episodes of our silly shenanigans and crazy opinions, and we've been doing this for a while now, so we got some interesting shit out there in the ether. But yeah, so speaking of that, Mattson, tell everybody where else they can find us.
Yeah, if you want to find us, first and foremost, you can find us where good podcasts can be found at What's Our Verdict, Reviews, Spotify, Apple, you name it. Check us out on our social media, most especially with TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram at What's Our Verdict. You can also tune in on our live shows on Mondays for House of the Dragon and Rings of Power, and then Thursdays for Andor currently. We're whipping up our October slate for some horror movies and things settling into the Halloween time period we're excited for. Our website at whatsourverdict.com is currently under a facelift at the moment. We're excited about that when it comes back. But if you want to interact with us outside of that, please feel free to email us at hosts@whatsourverdict.com. Feel free to suggest some stuff to us or just chime in. And then lastly, we just kicked off our Patreon. So a lot of what JJ remarked on, a lot of our archived episodes or outtakes or funny things, there's 3 different levels there. Encourage you to take a look. We'd love to interact with you there and give you some bonus content.
Yeah, lots of exclusive content on the way. We're excited about that. So yeah, it's been a fun episode, gentlemen. And again, thanks for joining us live. Shantez, anyone else that's been listening, sorry again if I butchered your name. I'm really bad at that, but it's entertaining as hell to watch me get through it. With that, join us next time. See him on. If the storm don't, I love it.
Be safe down there with that hurricane if it comes out.
Yeah, let's hope it doesn't tear down the phone lines. We want you here next Monday. We're gonna talk some more of this craziness that's going on, and as always, we appreciate you tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.
Cinemagic out.
Whoa!